nothing I enjoy better than ripping on the Denver Post for not doing their job and then bringing a Denver Post reporter on. Joey Bunch, glad to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to be here, John.
What's the Post like without Lynn Bartles?
It's a sad place.
It's a sad place.
It will be. And Lynn, Colorado is losing by losing Lynn Bartles in journalism. You know, I've been in journalism nearly 30 years, and the lesson that Lynn Bartles taught me is treat everybody fair, and everybody will respect you. People will return your phone
She's never
calls.
treated me fair. She doesn't respect me.
Well, maybe you're a special case.
I'm a special case. But it is different. I mean, you've been around in journalism, but you haven't been in Colorado as long as Lynn. I mean, and that's the kind of institutional knowledge we made. It's tough at the papers. As much as I rip on the papers, it is tough. Let me say it. The job you guys have to do at the Post as you keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, things fall through. It's just it's not the paper it was. It's got to be tough working there, seeing your friends either getting laid off or taking early retirement. So
oh, it certainly is. And you know, as losing Lynn Bartles is a loss for Colorado, the Denver Post is the state's paper of record.
Yeah.
And newspapers, more than TV and radio, have a public trust. People look to us to do certain things. And with fewer and fewer people, you can do fewer and fewer things, much less losing somebody like with Lynn's talent and contacts and the respect that she has. It's a loss, and I'm incredibly sad about it.
So we have to go other places to get our information, which is a perfect little segue. You've been doing some work on taking a look at report cards, which is one of the things papers do is they keep an eye on our elected officials, but other people do as well, and they put together their own little scorecards of how your reps are doing. What are these scorecards?
Well, they take a set of bills that they like, an interest group. You know, so far there have been 2 conservative, 2 liberal. So they pick some bills that they like, and they look how people voted on those bills, either for or against, and they award a score, and then they come up with a ranking of who's the best in their view.
This happens in D.C. all the time with congressmen and senators. You've got the ACLU might put out their scorecard. The American Conservative Union puts out a scorecard. The National Taxpayers Union puts out a scorecard. You know, the Sierra Club or something else. And it helps you give you a picture of who these people are by who thinks they're doing a good job. Who here in Colorado does this?
Well, the Colorado Union, the 2 conservatives we have so far, the Colorado Union of Taxpayers and Principles of Liberty, that's based down in Highlands Ranch. And then on the left, we've got the Colorado Women's Lobby and Conservation Colorado. Now, not surprisingly, the conservatives think that the Republicans do a great job, and the liberals think that the Democrats are the bee's knees. That's no surprise.
That hasn't always been the case. I've been involved with the Colorado Union of Taxpayers for 25 years. And it used to be that you'd have the top vote getter for them was always a few Republicans, and then on the worst grades went to some Democrats. But in the middle, there was a lot of crossover, and something that any Republican hated was to have a Democrat scored higher by the taxpayers group than they were. Right. That doesn't really happen anymore.
No, it doesn't happen at all anymore.
What does that say to you?
That we're more partisan, we're more polarized. You know, I don't have to tell you, John, there are people that they'll look to see if a person has a D or an R behind their name before they make any opinion about whether that person is, whether the issue or the point is valid or not. And that's a shame. We should all think on our own.
Well, but these ratings really do help. If you are if you believe in the environmental cause, Conservation Colorado, that's something you might respect. For me, the Union of Taxpayers and Principles of Liberty, these are things that I respect. So are these a good way to get a picture? Do they give you a full picture, or do they only give you a part?
They don't give you a full picture.
Why not?
And I think that's, well, you know, because these are very partisan, very focused organizations. But if you look at them as a whole, they do. You know, when I was in school, my history teacher and my English teacher thought I was brilliant. My math teacher thought I was an idiot. But at the end of that...
Math teacher was right.
Yeah, you know, here I am. And at the end of that, I would get a report card. For these legislators, the ultimate report card is the voting ballot. So, you know, you take a snapshot, you cobble them together, you look to see, you know, are they more conservative, are they less conservative? But I just wonder, you know, you're absolutely right, when they get to be predictable. I mean, the Colorado Women's Lobby gave 32 of the 34 Democrats a perfect score. And I think no, there were 3 Republicans that wrote 50%. Now,
All right, so
Really?
a perfect score for almost every Democrat.
Right.
Is it the same way for the conservative groups? Because I mean,
No, not quite as much.
I remember with at least the Colorado Union of Taxpayers, there was a pretty sizable disparity that you had people across that spectrum. Same way, or are they?
No, I did notice that the conservatives seemed to be a little bit more generous than the liberals did this time. They're a little bit more scattered, but absolutely the conservatives, rank at the top of the conservative scorecards.
The other part that it doesn't give you a full picture is that they have to rate a bill that is voted on by the entire House or by the entire Senate. And it doesn't tell you what has happened in those committees.
Right.
And it makes sense because they got to look for a bill that if only 12 people voted on, it's not fair to everybody else in the legislature. Mm-hmm. So if it passed out of a committee or if it got killed in a committee, those might be really interesting votes, but it doesn't show up in the rankings because they don't rank committee votes. They only rank what's called the committee of the whole, the entire House or the entire Senate.
Well, it's a lot like campaign ads. You know, somebody can vote against a bill, but you don't know what was in that bill. There's things called
Right.
poison pills that it sounds like that you voted against this great noble thing, but what people don't know is there's something in there. There's a high cost, there's a tax to people. There's a reason why they voted, and those things don't get factored in.
Do these scorecards still have the impact that they're hoping for with legislators? I mean, it was one of those things that if you were a Republican and you got a low score on the Colorado Union of Taxpayers rating, they were hacked off because your primary opponent might take you on that, or it was something that could be used during a campaign. Does it still have that kind of gravitas?
I don't know. Maybe with some. If you're the top-ranked legislator, maybe. But I was surprised this time. Two of the scorecards were sent to me, but there were two I had to go track down because I kind of heard about them and I wanted to learn more about them. So the straw polls are a good example. Straw polls are going away. They did away with the Iowa
Explain what a
straw
straw poll is.
Straw poll is where they just basically, they did one at the Western Conservative Summit. They take a collection of people who are there and say, how would you vote if the election was held today?
Right.
And, we're 16 months away from election, maybe more. That means nothing. But I was talking to our friend, Dick Wadhams, who said, you have to take them with a grain of salt, but you can't discount them. They're a snapshot in time about what a particular demographic is thinking, and elections are won by cobbling demographics together. It measures the temperature. It doesn't, tell you when the pot's boiling. But
they don't give you the whole picture, and you're saying these don't give you the whole picture.
No, they don't. It's like anything else, John. People have got to do their homework. I think one of the things that's killing us as a democracy is knee-jerk opinions, shorthand.
I made a living on knee-jerk opinions.
Well, you do it well.
All right.
So, everybody wants somebody else to think for them. So, they look to people like you who can condense it down for them and present it in a way that they can understand. But I think each one of us as citizens, we need to do our own reading.
But that's harder to do. Let's be honest. If you're working, you're not going to go and say, well, Joey Bunch is running for the House district here locally for the State House. I better go see how he voted on all these things. You'd have to go back through all the journals. And if you don't know how to read the House journals, it makes no sense. You got to look at voting records. So by having trusted sources, whether it's liberal or conservative, it at least gives you a picture, kind of in the same way that an R or a D behind your name at least gives somebody a sense of what you are. Well, if you were advising a voter to go research somebody, where would you ask them to go?
I would tell them to use Google. Don't trust one source. Read sources from the other side. I remember something somebody said at the Western Conservative Summit. They were talking to 2,000 social conservatives, and he said, we only read news that we want to read. We only listen to people we want to listen to. And then we only
Which is why there are no viewers of this television program.
Oh, I don't believe that at all.
Keep going.
And then we're surprised that we don't understand issues. I love to listen to both sides because I like to hear their talking points and the way they work. And it is hard work. It is hard work to be an American. It's a hard work to support democracy. It's also hard work to defend America in the Middle East. It's also hard work to do the jobs that our public servants do. We all got a role in this. Why can't we do our share as citizens?
Well, then work for a better newspaper so you can get the word. No, I'm joking. So these are good places to look. These are good starting grounds, but Absolutely. You got to go farther than that.
It's a lot of work to be an American.
Nah, it depends if you're on the dole or not. Joey, thank you. Thank you. Listen for me on KHOW Radio. Tell a friend about the Independence Institute. That's independenceinstitute.org. And we'll see you next week.